Καλησπέρα σε όλες, καλησπέρα σε όλους. Άσχημη, στενάχωρη μέρα η σημερινή. Ο Μάριος Μιχαήλ Τουρούτσικας, υποσμηναγός της πολεμικής αεροπορίας, έπεσε υπέρ πατρίδος, αθάνατος. Μπήκε στο πάνθεον των ηρώων και αυτός, όπως τόσοι και τόσοι αεροπόροι μας, μεταξύ άλλων ο Παναγιώτης Βλαχάκος, ο Έκτορας Γιαλοψός και ο Χριστόδουλος Καραθανάσης, κατά τη διάρκεια των γεγονότων που εκτελήθηκαν στα Ήμια. Αυτή η χώρα έχει δώσει πάρα πολλούς νεκρούς και όλοι αυτοί οι ήρωες πετούν ούτως ώστε εμείς να συνεχίσουμε να ονειρευόμαστε, να ζούμε μια ζωή στην οποία θα κάνουμε debates για το τι μας αρέσει και το τι δεν μας αρέσει, να λέμε εάν αυτός θα αγοράσει εκείνο το προϊόν ή το άλλο προϊόν, όταν οι άνθρωποι αυτοί απλά δίνουν το αίμα τους, δίνουν όλο τους το είναι, για να μπορούμε εμείς να συνεχίζουμε αδιάκοπτα και απρόσκοπτα την καθημερινότητά μας. Τι άλλο μπορεί να πούμε? Συλληπιτήρια στους οικείους τους. Αυτό που νομίζω ότι ίσως θα τους παρηγορήσει είναι ότι παλικάρια σαν και αυτούς, όσο υπάρχουμε εμείς που αγαπάμε την πατρίδα, θα προσπαθούμε με όλο μας το είναι να τους τιμούμε και να τους μνημονεύουμε, διότι η συνεισφορά τους στην πατρίδα μας είναι ανεξίτηλη. Λοιπόν, σήμερα η εκπομπή θα είναι ξενόγλωση, θα είναι στα αγγλικά. Θα έχουμε μαζί μας τον Άντονι Βότσον, ο οποίος είναι συντελεστής ενός από τους μεγαλύτερους οργανισμούς του Αμερικανικού συντηρητισμού, του Αμερικανικού συντηρητικού χώρου, του Turning Point USA. Ο άνθρωπος αυτός είναι Ολυμπιονίκης, συμμετείχε στους Ολυμπιακούς Αγώνες τους χειμερινούς. Είναι μαύρος, όπως θα δείτε στο χρώμα, αλλά δεν συμμερίζεται τις ακρότητες του Black Lives Matter. Και γενικότερα είναι ένας εντελώς ακομπλεξάρικος τύπος, ο οποίος έχει να μας πει πάρα πολλά για το συντηρητικό χώρο, τα οποία πιστεύω ότι θα βρείτε πάρα πολύ ενδιαφέροντα. Και νομίζω ότι αυτό φτάνει για να προλογίσουμε τη σημερινή εκπομπή. Καλώς ήρθατε σε άλλο ένα Right to the Bone.
Shut up and sit down.
You wanted law and order in this town. You've got it.
People are ready to tell us, this is not possible, that is not possible. I say, whatever the true interest of our country calls for is always possible.
He said at press conference the other day that he wanted the European Parliament to be the democratic party of the community. He wanted the Commission to be the executive, and he wanted the Council of Ministers to be the Senate. No, no, no.
You know, they have a word. It sort of became old-fashioned. It's called a nationalist. And I say, really, we're not supposed to use that word. You know what I am? I'm a nationalist, okay? I'm a nationalist.
You know, when I came here 17 years ago, and I said that I wanted to lead a campaign to get Britain to leave the European Union, you all laughed at me. Well, I have to say, you're not laughing now, are you?
You wanted law and order in this town. You've got it.
Χαίρετε, είμαι ο Ραφαήλ Καλυβιώτης. Καλώς ήρθατε σε άλλη μία εκπομπή Right to the Bone. Μαζί μας η Δάφνη Νούσση. Δάφνη, καλησπέρα.
Καλησπέρα σε όλους, παιδιά.
Λοιπόν, Δάφνη, να πάμε κατευθείαν στο προκείμενο. Να σε ευχαριστήσουμε. Η Δάφνη, να ξέρετε, είναι μέλος του δικτύου που έχει αναλάβει την αρμοδιότητα να μας συντονίζει και να μας βρίσκει ανθρώπους με τους οποίους μπορούμε να κάνουμε ενδιαφέρουσες συζητήσεις από το εξωτερικό. Αυτή η συνέντευξη με το Turning Point USA, σας διαβεβαιώνω, δεν είναι καθόλου εύκολη να την επιτύχεις, διότι είναι ένας πάρα πολύ μεγάλος συντηρητικός οργανισμός στην Αμερική, έχει και παράρτημα φυσικά στο Ηνωμένο Βασίλειο και αλλού. Επομένως, αυτή η σύνδεση, τουλάχιστον να μπορέσουμε να αποκτήσουμε μια κοινή συνισταμένη, έναν ελάχιστο κοινό παρονομαστή πάνω στα ζητήματα τα οποία έχουμε να αντιμετωπίσουμε γενικότερα ως Δύση, διότι δεν τα αντιμετωπίζουμε μόνο εμείς οι Έλληνες, προέρχονται από όλο το woke κίνημα και από όλη τη woke ατζέντα και από συγκεκριμένα υπερεθνικά κέντρα. Άρα με αυτόν τον τρόπο αναγκαστικά εμείς οι πατριώτες από διάφορες χώρες πρέπει να συνενωθούμε για να καταπολεμήσουμε, εντός εισαγωγικών το καταπολεμήσουμε τον κοινό εχθρό, και στο πλαίσιο αυτό και στην προσπάθεια διεθνοποίησης της εκπομπής μας και όλης αυτής της προσπάθειας την οποία κάνουμε, θα έχουμε μαζί μας τον Άντονι Βότσον. Δεν ξέρω αν έχεις να προσθέσει κάτι, Δάφνη.
Όχι, καταρχάς να πω και εγώ ότι οι προσευχές μου και οι σκέψεις μου είναι με την πολεμική αεροπορία αυτή τη στιγμή και με το παλικάρι που αγνοείται. Λυπάμαι πάρα πολύ για αυτό που συμβαίνει και είναι αποφράδα ημέρα σήμερα τελικά, γιατί συνέπεσε με την ημέρα των ημείων. Πραγματικά η σκέψη μας με τις οικογένειες των ηρώων. Και ναι, πέρα από αυτό το στενάχωρο κλίμα, ας πάμε σε κάτι λίγο πιο θετικό, γιατί πραγματικά με βλέπεις λίγο στενοχωρημένη.
Εντάξει, Δάφνη. Λοιπόν, να βάλουμε στην κουβέντα τον Άντονι. Άντονι, hello.
Hello, how are you?
We are fine. Thank you for joining us in our show. It's great having you here. It's what I was telling to our Greek audience was that although we come from different countries, the problems and the ideologues that we are facing do not have, they are borderless. So it is quite interesting that although that we live in different countries, the problems that we are facing are the same regarding these matters, the cultural matters, the cultural wars, and all this stuff. And it's also very interesting that the movement, the conservative movement, has a common ground. Do you agree with that statement?
That the conservative movement has a common ground, absolutely, because when you look at it's not conservatism that's taken over the world right now. Conservatism isn't political because in my country, at least, there's no such thing as the Conservative Party. You have people who live conservative lifestyles that now are coming into positions of power that are doing things the way that they should have been done to preserve things, because the root word of conservative is to conserve. And when you look at the definition, it means to protect for long lasting, meaning that the long lasting way of life that makes it see its longevity, the long lasting ways of family life and culture that actually help it propel into the future to actually benefit more people that come behind it are what we're trying to preserve now. Because if we've seen anything from history, if we've learned anything in what we're seeing unfold now in the world through all these woke agendas, through all of these progressive groups out there, you're seeing a lot more life cease to exist in the name of healthcare, in the name of fairness, in the name of safeness, and it doesn't make sense.
So do you think that behind this agenda, because, you know, I'd like to be, you know, to have a clear conversation and go to the roots of the problem. Do you think that behind this agenda, there are some corporate elites that are using it in order for them to gain more money?
Oh, of course there are. I mean, like, let's take COVID, for example. You know, in my country, everyone criticized, you know, my president, former President Donald Trump, of killing everyone in America because he didn't care about them and he let the virus get out of control. Then when he created the vaccine to counteract that, everyone on the left said that they refused to take it because he's the one that put it in motion. Then when they cheated and got him out of office, and yes, I still will say that elections are being stolen and that everything is being taken, no one will convince me otherwise of that. When that happened, then you saw the leftist Democrat elitists now start to use the vaccine and everything that Donald Trump did as a weapon, to where now you have so many people conflicted internally that it's kind of hard for people to kind of make heads or tails of what they actually believe rather than what they're being told for social acceptance. And who was at the forefront of that? You saw Bill Gates, who is a known elitist, who has said that the global population is getting too big and it's not going to be fair to humanity. I'm like, well, who gave you the right to say that? You're one person who has made billions of dollars by more people buying your product and keeping you rich. Then you have George Soros, Jeff Bezos, all of these people who have put all of this money behind vaccination people so that more people that get the vaccine, they get more money. They paid celebrities. They've had it on commercials. They've had all of these things to promote something. And in the end, all the money that is spent and given to that goes all the way back to them. So there's definitely an agenda when more people are pushing certain agendas and all of these things that you start seeing take. Even the World Economic Forum that just happened a couple of weeks ago in Davos, all of these people that are for global warming had to take private jets, and then after taking private jets, get helicoptered into a special landing pad to then get driven in carbon producing cars to go meet on how to figure out how to make the world more green and less carbon efficient. And so my thing is just like, if you are that big on it, you guys should be leading by example by hitchhiking, taking different ways of transportation to prove that you're the ones that are willing to go through all of that. And so when people like us who work every day, who buy the products that all of these big major companies have put out there to the public, see the people who are leading these crusades not even leading by example and doing things the way that they want us to, that's where I start raising questions and know that there's an agenda behind it that they're not really talking about.
So in Davos, you know, there was certain interesting things that were manifested. One of it was the global citizenship, which you know, was a little bit curious. Of course, we knew, all of us that are in the conservative movement knew that it is one of the goals of supranational elites for the nation states to be replaced with a super state. I don't know, with a global state. I'm not sure what the real agenda is, but putting it in front so plainly, I think it signals something, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Because what you saw happening there is you have roughly, I want to say, what, 50 people that met at the Davos World Economic Forum that are the real big power players in this whole thing. So you're going to tell me that 50 people, just because they have the resources that they've got through means of however they've gotten them, now have the right to speak for 8 billion people in a world where they blame everything on natural causes that they themselves partake in. So it's like, where do you draw the line as being a crusader for change without being a hypocrite for agenda? So you have so many people now that are there in the name of, we need to do this. Greta Thunberg, she's not even a real activist, you know, staging her own arrest just so that she could get more credit, you know. But there are people who are older than her that have spent less time in school, fewer years getting educated, that are more outrageous with their accusations of humanity, mankind. And to be honest, left to the elites, they're the ones that preach that there's nothing good left in humanity and mankind or in the world. So I'm just like, you know, why are you meeting then to try and bring a solution to it when you say and preach on a regular basis that there's nothing good left fighting for? And so when you see things like that, it causes the average person like us that literally live in the world that they try to continue to manipulate and change to what we won't recognize anymore, what their true motives are. And so what I see now is that it's actually kind of scary because people aren't secretive anymore. They're letting it be known what they plan on doing, what they're going to do. And they've given us, honestly, the playbook, because now that we know what their moves are, now it's up to us to find ways to combat that.
Correct. And now one other point in their agenda, one other thing that's going on is that they're putting in front celebrities eating bugs for us to you know, to be manipulated and stop eating meat because meat, you know, and because the cows produced, I don't know, they produce more. I don't know, Daphne, what the ingredient is that they produce, and they pollute the environment. But that was what was going on in Holland, and it brought the agricultural industry to revolt against the political system, because Netherlands is one of the countries that's its economy is based most in agricultural farming. So it's like an agenda that is far away from the needs and the reality of everyday people. It's like they are living in a whole different world, and they are trying to put in front of us some ideas that are not ideas that can be enforced to us, but they keep on pushing them. I don't know what they are expecting for the people to revolt, for people to stop voting politicians that are mainstream, but the result is not good.
Well, what I see from my perspective, guys, because I really like your point of view, is we see an endeavor to totally control the people worldwide, the population. So with establishing institutions for world government, etc., and actually producing centralized power institutions, that's really a very threat, a menace for freedom. So if we have, on one side, we have authoritarianism, which is liberalism and political correctness, and on the other side, we have decentralization, conservative freedom. You know, the irony in all this, what I see, is that we the conservatives are portrayed to be the authoritarians, while we are not. We are really defending freedom. And really, Anthony, with your activism, and you have a very fervent profile, very dynamic actions, how has it been being an activist in the USA, an advocate for freedom?
Well, I never really know how to answer that question, because everyone's like, when did you start being an activist? And I was like, well, there was never one day that I woke up and I was like, this is what I'm passionate about. You know, I was raised by two godly parents that taught me how to love God, love my country, and be a good human. You know, and I feel like that is something that is under attack more than ever right now, because in my country, it's not me taking a stand to fight against this and this and that. It's me taking a stand to fight for what's right, because there is right and there is wrong. And the culture that we live in now, people glorify people that are doing things wrong, and people, you know, like condemn and criticize the people that want to live with integrity and do things the right way. You know, but it shouldn't take anybody by surprise. You know, I'm a Christian first and foremost. So in the Bible that I read, it always says that in Romans, in Romans chapter 1, it says people did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and they were surrounded by people that encouraged them to continue doing what was evil. And you see that now from people that are in the trans movement, from people that are in this BLM nonsense, to people that are still fighting for this fake feminist movement, you know, this gender wage pay gap and stuff like that that doesn't exist, this white privilege stuff, people white knighting and trying to like save minority groups by using their quote unquote privilege that doesn't exist anymore. That's what got me a little upset, because I'm like, this isn't helping us. This is hurting us. This is causing people to see things differently. And all I have done is literally speak from common sense, because that's what's missing now. All of this stuff that we are taking a stand in, fighting for freedom, fighting for your liberties, that's stuff that as humans, we want to be treated and seen as and respected in. And so you never thought we would actually come to a day where doing the basic human necessities of being kind, courteous, respectful, and polite to other people would become polarizing political activist points of conversation. But here we are. And so now it's up to every other person that thinks and feels the same way to now take a stand together and make a cause for the people that want something different. Because if we lose our countries, if we lose this, the question becomes, where do we go from here? Because history's proven that progressivism doesn't do anything. It doesn't profit, it plummets. I was like, all of these things that you see happening now based off of people's feelings, I was like, nobody ever got into a war because they got their feelings hurt. I was like, they got into a war when people crossed boundaries and did things at a national level that endangered the people that they loved and cared about. And so now me being an activist here is going around to the different students. You know, I think I've gone to last year alone, almost 87, almost 90 campuses to go and talk to young people that want something different. And so what I go and I tell them is that, look, conservatism isn't your politics. We don't have a conservative party here. Conservatism is your stance on marriage. It's your stance on the family. You know, it's how you view life at conception, whether or not it's worth saving or whether you want to kill it. I said it's the morals, it's the values, it's the, you know, character and integrity that you live and walk under every single day that you actually have to live out that makes you a conservative. I was like, the only reason that conservatism has become so political is not because our politics rub people the wrong way. It's our way of life. So it's how you live every day that has now made people feel uncomfortable being around you. It had nothing to do about what you think dish policy should be or like how you feel about foreign affairs or what's your stance on war. It's just like, hey, I think that a dude shouldn't go to the girls' bathroom because that's a girl's bathroom. And that became polarizing because I treat it as a dude. A straight black cis male according to liberal ideologies and agendas and whatnot. So that's how I got involved in it. And now I'm starting to see more of a necessity for it, which is kind of sad, but also very easy at the same time. It's sad that you see so many people not knowing the basics of being a good human. But it makes it easy because if you can teach someone how to have manners or how to like be respectful or at least the basics of humanity, I was like, it's an easier thing to do, but then the fight itself is against all those people that are up against it.
So Anthony, you've raised a lot of interesting points here, one of which is about the drag queen story hour that you told about the bathrooms, and you told about and you talked about what's happening on genders and all the stuff that has, spread throughout all the Western world. One of the bad things that America has exported to the rest of the Western world is the drag queen story hour. We were the ones from Twitter in Greece that made people aware that was happening because they were going to continue the event without letting the public know, but we made the public aware what was happening. So I don't know how Christian is a drag queen reading a Christmas book for children, first of all, and second of all, do you think that this is a reconstruction of child sexuality?
Absolutely it is. And so everyone wants to come and say, like that Jesus is trans and that Jesus accepts people. There has to be a clear understanding. In my country right now, there have been so many satanic and satanistic ritualistic statues erected, so many satanistic clubs and TV shows and things put out into the public, and Satan has a counterpart. It's Jesus Christ. And so to acknowledge that the devil is real and to offer him something as if he's going to do what's best for you, because we all know that he doesn't. It's just like you have to acknowledge that if this is real and that this is existing here, then then Jesus has to exist over here. If Satan does this, then I said God has to have a standard too. The two can't coexist together. And when you have people in the trans community now coming after kids, you have to ask yourself the conservative question, because again, the root word of conservatism or conserve is to protect. And are kids being protected when they're exposed to these adults that are literally half naked, shaking their genitals in their face? I don't think so. Everyone is always upset at predators that rape women and then want to take a stance to make that support abortion, but they do nothing about the criminal. And it starts in areas like this, because now that you expose yourself to children, they've literally moved the field goals even further to now take it from, oh, well, I'm trans and, you know, I'm not a pedophile, I'm a minor attracted person. And so all of these different things that change, that have different names and titles to try and make it more acceptable. But if you're aware of the root cause of it all, then you're never going to be blindsided. 20 years ago, all the drag queens that you see right now were under the term androgyny. Androgyny was a term in the 80s that meant men who like to dress like women. Then in the 90s, it turned from androgyny to cross-dressing. People that just like to dabble in like a little things here. And then after that, it was metrosexual. The people that do the girly things like getting their nails done and like grooming themselves very well. And then now it's full-on drag queen, cross-dressing, transsexual agendas now. So over time, it's had a different name. And over time, it's progressed to go more extreme. And they've changed it to make it more acceptable to the people of the day. So when you're seeing what happening is right now is people are trying to now basically make it okay for kids to be sexually assaulted. When you get kids so used to having sex and everything else around them, when they have an adult now make them uncomfortable by touching them, assaulting them, or doing everything else like that, you're going to have a society that now supports the pedophile and doesn't protect the child. And that's where I step in and I'm just like, this has got to stop. I mean, like, kudos to you and props to you guys for making people aware, because every person that quote unquote wants to be accepted by society always moves in silence and they always move in the shadows. And when you expose them in the light, that's when they run and they hide. They wait a little bit, then they try coming out by branding it differently. But like I said, you know the root cause of it, you know the root of it all, then you can expose it any single time it pokes its head up.
Correct. I really like this strategic comment of yours. Yes, this is how they operate and this is how we have to fight back. But I see you mentioning, and I really like this point, conservatism and associating conservatism with a lifestyle and Christianity and values and ethos. Can you please elaborate a bit of your ideas on conservative lifestyle and how do you define it?
Well, conservative lifestyle to me is like, it's the things that actually like produce longevity. Like when you promote marriage and having people stay together for longevity, you know, like that makes marriage a sacred thing. Because now you have people that attempt at marriage, when they hit a little roadblock, people don't know how to stick with that anymore. Family life that is protected in conservatism protects life at conception, you know, because we have laws in America now that say if the mother wants to abort her child 36 days after it's born, she has the right to do so because it's her body, her choice. And then they removed men from the picture because they've criminalized us. They've demonized us. They've made it seem like women can do everything on their own without a man. And then that's why, and everyone has been telling me no uterus, no opinion. I'm like, well, no semen, no baby. So I'm like, it kind of goes hand in hand, that kind of thing. You need us for that. And so how that looks in my daily life is, you know, like I said, I'm a Christian, you know, like I know that not all conservatives believe that kind of thing, but you can't tell me that the person, the God who created the universe that has all of these statutes in place does not line up with conservatives, because God protects family. God protects marriage. God has a stance about how you're supposed to view your life and how you're supposed to interact and move around that with people every single day. And so the closer I get to him, the better version of myself I can be to give people what they want, whether that's through encouraging, whether that's through volunteering, because now you have a generation of people that don't encourage anybody. They uplift the evil in everyone. If you're fat and someone says, hey, I want to help you get healthier, they've been taught now to see that as fat shaming and being afraid of fat people, fat phobic, and now criticizing and now shaming and publicly humiliating people when really all you want really all you want for them is the best. So now when you see all of these things collectively come in, it's just like, well, this is ruining what literally keeps life long lasting and like happy. So when you look at it, it's no longer just about policies. It's no longer about, you know, like personal preferences. This is how you live and how you choose to live your daily life now. And the issues and the morals and the values that you want to instill in your kids, raising them to be people that work hard, raising them to be people that are honest, raising them to be people that are full of integrity and character, those things that you are when nobody else is around. having them be upstanding individuals in solitude and isolation so that they can be better individuals to the public when they're in the public eye, is how I live out my conservatism.
Well, I know what you mean. In a world that everything is a contract, you know, to have some people that their word is their bond is refreshing, and it is something ethical that you know, it seems like it was born in the past, and we must revive it in order to have communities that are different, communities that, you know, trust the members of the communities trust each other. So I agree with you in that sense, meaning that conservatism is not actually an ideology. It is a lifestyle of balance and of manners and of ethos and all this stuff that I think our Greek ancestors, like Aristotle, taught so well. Well, I know that you like ancient Greece because you are an Olympian.
Yes.
You participated in the Winter Olympics in 2018, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I would like to know a little bit of this experience, because you must be a person of extraordinarily discipline to in order to participate in this kind of you know, sports, Olympian sports. I'll put a picture in front of the audience to see what were you exactly doing. It's this skeleton.
Oh yeah, that's my best friend Akwazi. He competed for Ghana that year that we competed in the Olympics together.
Yeah. So how was the experience? Were you training every day? Have you been training every day in order to compete? Did it require a lot of discipline to sacrifice everyday things? Because
absolutely. Okay, so like to compete at that kind of level, especially in that kind of realm, most people have to understand this. Olympians don't make money. We don't get paid for anything. We have to put in the exact amount of hours that people who get paid 160 million pounds, you know, shekels, or, you know, euros, or, you know, dollars every year put in for the opportunity. So it's not even guaranteed. You put in all this work for the opportunity to attempt to try to qualify for an Olympics. So the fact that I was able to go meant that I broke barriers that most people that came before me and other people that are going to come long after I'm a retired athlete may never get. And so it teaches you athletics some life lessons that you can only learn when you go through hardships. In athletics, you learn discipline. You learn how to stick to a program. Even if you don't see the results when you think you need to, you have to stick to it until you start seeing it peak. It teaches you self-control, because you have to learn how to push yourself to a certain limit without getting too crazy. And you have to learn when to withdraw so that you don't get hurt. It teaches you commitment, so that there are things that you have to be in these things. And it teaches you all these life lessons, pushing past mental obstacles, you know, like pushing yourself past your own like doubts and insecurities, and doing stuff for the betterment of yourself. Now, in my case, my Olympic experience, along with my friend Akwazi's, was very, very unique, because we were hated in the sport, being people who look like us, because there were a lot of Europeans, a lot of Americans, and a lot of people that didn't look like us that were threatened by us being there, that told me to go back to track and field, that I should stick to basketball and sports where people that look like me thrive in better than the sliding sport. And so there were days that I went without eating because I had no money to support myself. You know, sponsors were very few and far between. And then after competing in an Olympics, the years after that I tried to compete again, I got canceled and lost all of my Olympic sponsors because I came out as an outspoken Trump-supported conservative. And so I was blacklisted basically from any company ever wanting to work with me again to get me to the Olympics, because I was deemed as a threat. Now, the life of an athlete is it's very hard, but it's worth it if you stick it through to the end, because I can't tell you, for the past 12 years of my life, I have missed birthdays. I've missed holidays with family. I've been on the road, and a lot of life has passed me by when I haven't been there to see it. You know, you miss time with friends, and then the time that you actually get to connect with them is so short as compared to the time that you actually get with friends of yours that you compete with during the season. For a regular time, you're with your friends on tour for about 5 months, you're home for 6 months, you know, and then it's very lonely. And so people don't understand the amount of time that you actually go into training, which is why so many people make training and competing their obsession, because it's literally has to take that form to manifest into what it is. Now, me, I found a good balance where I was able to do certain things to actually get the results that I wanted without losing my sanity. But there were times where I literally thought about taking my own life because I was that strung out, I was that lonely, I was that upset, and I had that much resistance from athletes, peers, coaching staffs, organizations, federations that wanted and were hoping and literally setting me up to fail. And didn't get to. And I can sit here today as an Olympian telling people that, wow, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the world through culture. I learned a lot about, you know, the world that we know it through the stories and the experiences of my friends that I now have that came from different countries that saw me, that actually helped me continue to get to where I am. And so that's what I've taken from it to now give that to other people, because people will look at me and be like, well, you're an Olympian, you got to compete in an Olympics. And I'm just like, yeah, but I was like, I've had my fair share of days where I've wanted to quit. I've had my fair share of days where I've wanted to give up, and people literally would have celebrated me being like, you gave it a good run, but you know, maybe you can get into something else. But I was like, but I wouldn't have been happy with myself. And that's what I tell people nowadays. I'm like, you can't do things for the mob just because they're louder than you. You can't do things for public opinion just because you get a little pressure from people that disagree with you. I was like, because at the end of the day, no matter how many people get bought or paid for, I was like, they're never at peace. They always got to watch over their shoulder. They always got to look behind their back, because they know that when you do things this way, there's no coming back from it unless you completely come clean about it. And nobody wants to take accountability or responsibility for the evil, the actions, or the things that cause all of this mayhem. They do a good job of deflecting and blaming it on everybody else. And so when you can be comfortable with yourself in any circumstance and any environment, and you can learn how to thrive in solitude, you will be the same person in every social setting. You'll be the same person when you're by yourself. You'll be the same person that can thrive in a crowd, but also the same person who can thrive solo. And then you'll be the person that people chase because you're built on a foundation that was built through pain and that has been tested through time. And in the end, when everything falls apart, because everything is evil, and everything that is evil always collapses at some point. And you want to be the person that actually dug your feet into something solid, that when it does fall apart, you're one of the people that are left standing. And it's not being left standing to gloat. It's being left standing to lead. That's what leadership is. It puts you in a position by yourself so that when everything falls apart, you're able to then help people that make the choice to follow in your footsteps, not to put you in a place of empowerment so that you get full of yourself, because leadership always requires you to do that one thing that nobody else wants to do, and that's work. Leaders are the ones that take the bullet first. Leaders are the ones that got to forge a path. They've got to be the ones that make it clear. They've got to clear the debris out the way. They've got to fill the potholes. They've got to hop the hurdles, then push them out the way. And when they get hurt, they have to be the ones to pick themselves up, patch themselves up, and then keep moving forward, which is what you've seen in every civil rights movement, which is what you saw in a lot of the elections that have been taken across the world, a lot of politics, a lot of celebrities that have now taken stances. It leaves you on your own, but it also raises a silent army that have been watching, waiting for somebody to take a stance and do something, and then you've got more support. It may not be as vocal, but you've got the support that you need to help you get to the next level.
That's very interesting, because hardships and hardships create a person that is disciplined. A disciplined person can control himself, and a disciplined person is a strong person that can lead. And of course, if you lead, then you can resist to authoritarian tactics, to people that want to pass mass products of brainwashing. Sorry. So it is, I think that what you said now really connects to what you said before, that stupid things like fat phobia and all this phobia that are artificially created are are from the system in order for people not to resist and not create their own independent characters. So I think that's the case. And also, I wanted to ask you, you know, regarding all things that you've said before, do you think that the Black Lives Matter is a mob movement?
I will say this: Black Lives Matter is a scam. BLM does not stand for Black Lives Matter. It stands for burn, loot, and murder. That's what they do.
Can you please elaborate more?
Here, what you have seen is the total hypocrisy of what Black life and what the movement means. Black Lives Matter was started when somebody was taken out a certain way. And so there were some killings that weren't justified. We can all agree to that. Correct. There were some things people made choices, and this was the result of the choices and the lifestyle that they've made. But Black Lives Matter, over the past 6 years that it's been around, has grossed over $60 million. And when you look at what they've spent it on, you know, that should raise questions as to what they're actually fighting for. You know, the leaders are 3 lesbian women that hate the nuclear family, that don't even like men, that are now standing in the gap to fight for men that have had their lives taken. But they also
I think the New York Post posted, you know, something that one of the leading figures of the movement had some 3 villas or something like that. 4 villas. Oh, correct. I would also be the leader of the movement if I had 4 villas.
Yes, and 4 houses that were all like, I think $5 to $10 million each. And then when she was asked about it, she said, well, I did this so I could take care of my family. And then I was like, wait a second, I thought BLM is against the family and that we want everyone to be individuals here. So why are you taking all of the money that people who were swayed through fear donated to you, thinking they were doing something well so that you could have a lavish lifestyle? And you've started to see it here and there. But BLM is very hypocritical, because BLM, and I will say this, because BLM supports abortion. They're heavy on abortion. And my thing is, you look at the communities that a lot of all of these Planned Parenthood abortion clinics are. They're in minority communities, set by Margaret Sanger, who was an outspoken racist person who said that the Black population needs to be controlled. So she put them all in there. And so when you look at the lifestyle from hip hop to where they're talking about having sex with multiple women, doing drugs and shooting people, why is anyone surprised that that's what does it? And I tell everyone, Black lives will never matter to the rest of the world until they start mattering to us as Black people. And right now, when you glorify the killing of them through abortion and through music for entertainment reasons and for healthcare, I was like, you don't speak for any Black lives. I was like, what school has Black Lives Matters put any like deserving, like hardworking Black people through? None. I was like, what businesses did they donate to that got burned up in all of those riots over the past 4 years? None. I was like, they haven't done anything to actually elevate Black communities, Black voices, or Black lives, other than just getting money and showing up to mob whenever they want something. And of course, now that another life was taken the other day by 5 Black officers, they were silent, and all they did was just protest. Nobody said anything, because now it's no longer a white police officer killed an unarmed Black man. It was 5 Black officers that now the media has spun it and said that were driven by racism, led them to kill this man. And I was like, well, wait, y'all said 2 years ago that Black people are literally incapable of being racist because of the 400-year oppression that they've had to live through, the civil rights movement. They're just trying to be accepted, but yet you want to now slap the race thing on them. So you either need to go back and retract all of those things, or we can all sit here and agree that, hey, Black people can be racist too. But my big thing that made me not a supporter of Black Lives Matter is they're heavy on abortion, but then want to be activists for when Black lives are taken. And when George Floyd died, when Breonna Taylor died, when Tyree Nichols died, when Trayvon Martin died, these 4, immortalized people that they have now wrapped this entire agenda around, I'm like, all of those people were conceived. All of those people started as a fetus. All of those people went from infancy to babies to toddlers to kids to young teens, preteens, adolescents, teenagers, young adults, and now they're adults. So why does their life matter to you over here, but it didn't matter to you when other lives are doing that over here? And so the fact that they can't answer that, then they go into say in their original statement that they made that we don't support the nuclear family, but we want this to be a safe space for families to come and protest to support our cause for Black equality. And I'm just like, and then when people started calling them on that, they erased their entire mission statement off of their website.
Yes,
and
I've
then,
seen that.
And then when they were under review for taxes, you started seeing a lot of people get arrested because they were abusing and misspending funds. And now when you see things like this, it doesn't need to be under the name of Black Lives Matter, because when we said all lives matter as conservative, it's not just limited to Black lives. We're not going to turn our eyes when a Hispanic life gets taken or a white life gets taken or an Asian life gets taken. When life is taken, it matters to us because it's unfortunate that now somebody is forever in eternity sooner than they wanted to be, not having the chance to be the person that they could have become because of circumstances. And some of it is uncontrollable, but a lot of these people that you saw in the positions that they were in were there because of choices that they made. Breonna Taylor was dating a drug dealer and got caught in the crossfire of a person who was a criminal from the police. Trayvon Martin was in the wrong neighborhood, wouldn't comply with the officer, and then got shot, you know, because he wouldn't comply. George Floyd was strung out of his mind on fentanyl, and then was already on his way out. And then when all the footage came out, we found out that that police officer was falsely accused and imprisoned, but BLM threatened and pressured the jury to actually convict him. And now you see Tyree Nichols that wouldn't comply with police, that through resisting and everything else met his end because police had too short of a temper to do that. You can't take chances here. And the narrative before this was that white cops are around just looking for Black people to shoot, beat up, and torture because they want them to have a harder life. And now that it's reversed, and now that it's happened this way, now they've got no argument, which just proves everything that they stood for before, which unseats every kind of theory that they've had, and this whole thing of critical race theory that they've been pushing, which, by the way, critical race theory in itself debunks itself in its name. It's critical race theory. And when you look at the definition of it, it says it's a group of opinions and a movement that shows the systemic racism against minorities, AKA Black people. And I'm just like, what's a theory? And everyone's like, a collective group of opinions. And I was like, what have your parents told you never to live your life by? Other people's opinions. So that right there is why I debunk and I hate critical race theory. There's no white person that kept me from doing what I was doing. There were more Black people that thought that I was doing what I was doing to appease the white man. And I tell more people, I was just like, I'm in the same race you are. I look like you. So why are you trying to trip me up? Just because you have no ambition and no desire to do better for yourself, to have a life that you deserve through your hard work. Everybody wants equal outcomes. Nobody wants equal opportunity, because equal opportunity means that you got to work, and whatever the results are, you just have to settle for it. Everyone wants an even playing field where it's just like, I want to sell drugs and do nothing, but yet I want a 7-figure salary because Jennifer, who studied and got her master's degree and then did this, had 6 internships, finally got a good job and is making all this money. She's white and she's just taking all of my opportunities. I'm like, get out of here with that. Miss me with that.
Daphne, one last comment and question. You know,
I really liked before when you talked about virtues such as honor, discipline, and I discern that all those features that you mentioned are strongly associated with masculinity. Unfortunately, we live in an era where masculinity is something that is not considered anymore something ethical. Somebody has waged war at white men, or men in general. And I personally, I have to say that I have received lots of love and respect from men. And women do not say that often nowadays. I have to say that my ethos, my virtues in life, have derived from people like my father, my brother, my family, men. Don't get me wrong, of course there were very powerful and good women that were surrounding me, but I have to say that men have been really important to me as well. And I would like really to ask you, why do you think that men that there is war against men? Why do you think that women are not saying anything good, rather than you're a rapist, you are sexually harassing me, and you know, all those feminist things that we hear often against men?
Well, I feel like masculinity is under attack now because we haven't done a good enough job of glorifying good behavior. And we've made it easy for bad men to get away with things. And good men are the ones that are seen as pushovers and the ones that have no grasp on any kind of thing. But a good man protects what's his. He looks out for those, and he's a figure, he's a boundary that anything that's evil won't cross. That's how I was raised, because I grew up with 3 sisters. So my dad was always like, look out for them. Even if they don't ask you for it, always keep an eye on them. Make sure that nothing bad happens to them and all of this stuff. Protect your sisters, protect women. And it's also biblical. Jesus tells men, he says, men treat older women as mothers, treat younger women as sisters. If you wouldn't want people assaulting and raping your sister, don't become that kind of man. If you wouldn't want people disrespecting or talking bad at your mother, don't do that to them. That is how God asks men to be. He asks us to be protectors for the weak. And we've made it easy nowadays for men to have access to so much stuff that takes away from masculinity. All of the women that are the ones, not all of them, most of the women that are the ones that are screaming the loudest for respect are the ones that put themselves out there. You have seen a spike in pornography. You have seen such an easy access to sexualized material for where people are literally marketing themselves through OnlyFans, through Fansly, even Twitter, where people literally can post fully nude things, videos of themselves, and then shoot people to their website where they can buy these kinds of things. And it makes it easy for men. And like, that doesn't make a man want to be a man. That turns a man from a protector to a predator when you make it so easy. And then when women actually get the results from men that comes with being that kind of woman, they get mad and say, well, I need to be respected. I'm like, no, you need to respect yourself. Women like yourself, Daphne, respect yourself. So it keeps men that are away, men that aren't good, at arm's length. And even if they do approach you, you have enough self-respect for yourself to tell them that it's like, I'm sorry, but I am not that kind of woman. I don't dabble in that kind of thing, and I will not be disrespected that way. But it also calls the men like me and the men like Рафаήλ that when we approach you, we come correct. We come with respect. We come honoring you as a person plus ourselves, and we don't teach that anymore. We don't teach people that it's polite to pull out a woman's chair for her, because now to do that says that, oh, I can do it myself. I don't need a man to do anything. But yet, who are the first people that women call when they need a tire change or a door breaks or something else? They call the service guy, they call their boyfriend, they call their dad when they need these things. It's not to say that you can't do them, but there's a way that things go to show favor and protective over what is sacred. And that's femininity. That's the lifestyle of women, because you guys are nurturers and caretakers. And when you take out the protector, the leader, and the guidance of a household that is supposed to lead families and young people, when you get rid of him, then it literally, families, young women, children become experiments of big government, tyranny, and all of these other groups that now want to target those people. Because I can tell you what, the people that hate children, support abortion to the latest term that they can, want to tell women that they have the right to their body, even though a baby's body isn't their own, that kind of thing. They hate kids, don't want to do nothing, hate the family, but yet they're teachers, yet they're instructors, yet they're motivational speakers, and they want the most influence over those kind of areas because the men aren't there to say, we're not having that here. The adage is true. It takes a village to raise a child. And in the old days, you had the men that protected the village by setting a perimeter. They were on the lookout just in case there were attacks. And they were the ones that went out and fought off the animals, the other tribal people from coming in to affect and take over their villages, their nucleus and their center that made them a unique people, a unique group, an organism. And now we have disgraced everything that is family, everything that is constant, everything that is connective. And we've said that you can do everything on your own. You don't need anybody. When in reality, God created us for connection. You find a connection, but everyone is wanting to connect to something. And then they go into drugs, alcohol, partying, like sex, all of these things that give you temporary satisfaction, but a longevity and a lifetime of regret and shame. And so when we start telling people that, hey, you need to court a girl, oh, that's old school. I'm like, but it's worked. Tell me how your grandparents and my grandparents had less means, less money, and fewer opportunities, but yet they found a way to stay together through all of the hard times. Is because people were raised and taught that it's just like, be a person of honor, be respectful to yourself. And when you are that way, you're going to attract people that are going to give you that. You'll have options. Not to say that it's just that one person that you got to wait and look for. You'll have options, but again, it comes down to the choices that you make, and the kind of person that you are internally is going to be the people that you attract. And then what you give to them says more about yourself than what you get from them. But we have so many people that are here nowadays wanting to take everything from everybody. They deplete everyone. And then when they have nothing left to give, they toss them away. Relationships and marriage and everything else in masculinity now has become a game. It's now get as many as you can, rather get one and make it work. And as myself, I refuse to be that kind of person that falls into that trap. I want something that I have to be something that is used as an example. Like, oh, Anthony loves his wife. Anthony loves his girlfriend. He does this. He protects her. He looks out for her. He does this and that, you know. And I mean, like, I'm not a chauvinist. You know, I'm not here to make your decisions for you and do that. But I mean, like, I am a traditionalist. I do believe that I have a role to play. And I don't want that to be taken by somebody else who's willing to do the work that I'm not willing to do.
Very, very nice. So a last question for you, I don't know if it's a difficult one, is that are there any politicians worth supporting? What's your opinion on that?
Oh, man, globally, man, I was really happy when I saw Giorgia Meloni take over the prime minister of Italy. I was so happy when I saw her say, like, we're going to support families. We're going to stand for marriage between one man and one woman. We're going to stand for God. Why can't we do this? Because if we lose this, that's our identity as Italians. That's our identity as a nation. I was a really big fan of hers. You know, I'm still a big Donald Trump fan, you know, minus the shots that he takes at people here and there. But I will say he put in our country Washington, D.C. on notice. Then you have other people like Ron DeSantis that everyone's talking about that's done a really good job in Florida. Then you got Senator Kennedy in Louisiana that whenever he has somebody that's in Congress that he has to go and like interview, oh, man, the dude takes him to the woodshed and he spanks him. I love that guy. You know, and so, and then you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's really good. You've got Lauren Boebert, who's really outspoken and vocal. You've got Matt Gaetz, who's really outspoken and vocal for conservative values. And you see the fight that these people are up against when you actually take a stand for what is right. Because when you take a stand, it kind of leaves you isolated, but it leaves you standing when everything else falls apart. Because right now, everyone right now has all eyes on Kevin McCarthy ever since Republicans took over the House. And so when he was doing all those shifty things, he was the one that approved some of the bills that went over to Ukraine to support their borders and give their citizens guns when Washington is trying so hard to take our guns and they're leaving our border wide open. So he was somebody that did that. So it was kind of iffy when we saw that whole thing playing out over that week and a half where he wasn't getting the votes outright. And so now he's starting to make moves that are making people start to warm up. And I mean, like, I'm warming up and I'm just like, look, I was like, that's one thing. I was like, you said you were going to do border security. You said you were going to protect people's rights. You said you were going to fight for freedom of life. I was like, now when those arguments come up, let's see what your response is. So that's just the people here and with a couple of world leaders that you see out there that are actually doing a good job. Conservatism is making a comeback because people are running out of answers, but the answer's been there the entire time. It's just outdated because you have a lot of people not living in it and not showing people the proper way on how to do it because we've let so many people come into the vulnerable spots of children now to now raise them to think these things. And it's right then and there that it needs to start making a comeback again so that the people like us have a hope in the people that we can actually pass the baton to and leave it when we've done our job and it's all said and done.
That's a very nice way of finishing this interview, this show. Thank you very much, Anthony, for your contribution. Thank you very much for your time and for all the efforts that you are making, because trying to make a difference and trying to participate in activism, and also in making people aware of what's happening is not an easy thing. And I'm pretty sure that you keep on making sacrifices as a person, as you did as an Olympian as well. So thank you about that, my friend, and we hope that we will have you again on our show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Рафаήλ. Daphne, thank you so much for the connection. And Raph, I hope I get to see you in your country soon. I wasn't kidding when I said I want to come over there and actually be the boots on the ground, because I mean, like, doing stuff online is fine, but I'm more of an in-person, do-it-yourself action kind of dude. So I want to make it happen for real.
So we hope that we see you in Greece then, my friend.
Well, you definitely will. Just tell me when I need to be there.
Great. All right, Anthony. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you wholeheartedly.
Thank you.
Λοιπόν, αυτός ήταν ο Άντονι Βότσον, ήταν εκπρόσωπος του Turning Point USA, ενός από τους μεγαλύτερους συντηρητικούς οργανισμούς της ΗΠΑ. Πραγματικά είχε πολλά ενδιαφέροντα πράγματα να μας πει. Είναι σίγουρα πολύ πιο κατηρτισμένος από ανθρώπους οι οποίοι θεωρούν τους εαυτούς τους ως instructors της δεξιάς ή ως δίθεν συντηρητικούς. Πραγματικά εμένα μου άρεσε πάρα πολύ η συζήτηση. Ο άνθρωπος είχε και γνώσεις και είχε και συγκρότηση. Δεν ξέρω αν συμφωνείς, Δάφνη.
Είχε και έχει και πολύ πάθος. Έχει τύχει να μιλήσω αρκετές φορές με τον Άντονι πριν έρθει εδώ και μπορώ να πω ότι έτσι είναι και στη ζωή του, έτσι είναι και στην καθημερινότητα. Δεν είναι μόνο στην εκπομπή, αν κάποιος τον πάρει τηλέφωνο. Και μ' αρέσει που έχει καταλάβει ότι ο συντηρητισμός δεν είναι απλά μια ιδεολογία πολιτική και δεν πιστεύουμε απλά σε κάποιους συγκεκριμένους φορολογικούς συντελεστές, αλλά είναι βίωμα. Είναι βίωμα, είναι αξίες, είναι ηθική. Οπότε μ' αρέσει πάρα πολύ η οπτική του και ο ακτιβισμός που κάνει.
Σωστά. Λοιπόν, να επαναλάβουμε ότι σήμερα είναι μια μαύρη μέρα για την Ελλάδα. Δηλαδή, είναι πραγματικά μια πολύ δύσκολη μέρα και για τις ελληνικές ένοπλες δυνάμεις, ειδικά για την πολεμική αεροπορία. Είναι πραγματικά πολύ δύσκολη η συγκυρία, διότι καταλαβαίνετε ότι όταν ένας υποσμηναγός όπως ο Μιχαήλ Τουρούτσικας πέφτει υπερπατρίδος, δεν είναι και πολλά αυτά τα διαμάντια που έχουμε στην Ελλάδα που έχουν αυτή την αίσθηση και τη συναίσθηση καθήκοντος. Είναι πραγματικά πάρα πολύ στενάχωρο και πολύ φοβάμαι, αλλά θέλω να ελπίζω ότι δεν συμβαίνει αυτό, ότι δεν θα είναι και καλή η κατάληξη και για τον κυβερνήτη, αλλά ας προσευχηθούμε στο Θεό όλοι μας, ώστε ο κυβερνήτης να έχει σωθεί. Τι να πω. Είναι και, όπως είπες, και ανήμερα της μαύρης επετείου των ημείων, Δάφνη. Λοιπόν, επομένως, είναι πάρα πολύ στενάχωρη μέρα. Παρά τα αυτά, εμείς, από το δικό μας μετερίζει, από τη δική μας προσπάθεια, μετά από την καθημερινότητά μας, μετά από τις δουλειές μας, προσπαθούμε να οργανώσουμε ένα κανάλι το οποίο σιγά σιγά ανθρώπους και σύμβολα όπως τον υποσμηναγό Μάριο Μιχαήλ Τουρούτσικα να τους έχουμε ψηλά και να μην υπάρχει ένα κομμάτι της κοινωνίας το οποίο μόνιμα θα αμφισβητεί και μάλιστα είδα και διάφορα ανατριχιαστικά βλάσφημα σχόλια από αριστεριστές στα κοινωνικά δίκτυα και πραγματικά είναι να απορεί κανείς. Δηλαδή δεν είναι μόνο θέμα οικογενείας, είναι θέμα πλέον ιδιότυπου, ανθρωπότυπου. Αλλά αυτό που έχει σημασία και αξία είναι ότι ο καθένας από το δικό του μετερίζει να προσπαθεί να αλλάξει αυτή την κατάσταση. Εάν έμεινε κάτι από τη σημερινή εκπομπή και από τον Άντονι, είναι ότι μόνο εάν ο καθένας από εμάς κάνει την προσπάθεια, βγει από το comfort zone του, δηλαδή από τη θέση ασφαλείας του, από την καθημερινότητά του η οποία τον ρουφάει, προσπαθώντας να συνεισφέρει στην ανατροπή αυτής της κατάστασης πραγμάτων, μόνον τότε θα μπορέσουμε οι ίδιοι εμείς να επαναφέρουμε μια κοινωνία η οποία θα κρατηθεί στα πόδια της. Διότι όσο συνεχίζουμε να έχουμε μια τέτοια κοινωνία, οι Δυτικοί, οι Έλληνες, αυτό σημαίνει ότι δεν θα μπορέσουμε να επιβιώσουμε για πολύ. Και αυτό αφορά τα πάντα. Αφορά από το πώς αντιμετωπίζουμε τους νεκρούς μας, αφορά από πώς τους τιμούμε και είμαστε παρόντες για να τιμήσουμε τη μνήμη τους, αφορά ακόμα και το πώς διαπαιδαγωγούμε το παιδί μας, πώς το κάνουμε ενήμερο για τα σύγχρονα διακυβεύματα της εποχής μας και αφορά ο κάθε νέος και κάθε νέα, μέχρι δηλαδή το δημογραφικό, το κατά πόσον είναι έτοιμοι να θυσιάσουν λίγοι περισσότεροι, να έχουν λίγη λιγότερη ευμάρεια στη ζωή τους, από να συνεισφέρουν στην πατρίδα, φέρνοντας στον κόσμο όσο δυνατόν περισσότερα παιδιά. Γιώργο Μιχαήλου, ισχύει αυτό το οποίο γράφεις, γι' αυτό και η πρόεδρος της Δημοκρατίας είναι μάλλον η πρόεδρος εκείνη με τη λιγότερη δημοφιλία από όλους, και φυσικά η Λάιφο, ένας σχολιαστής αρθρογράφος στη Λάιφο, αναγιγνώσκοντας αυτό το έβριμα, είπε ότι οφείλεται στον στήρο μισογενισμό των Ελλήνων. Καταλάβατε, αυτή είναι η αριστερή στην Ελλάδα, δυστυχώς. Λοιπόν, να ευχαριστήσω πάρα πολύ και εσένα, Δάφνη. Οι προσπάθειές σου και πραγματικά η συνεισφορά σου στην οργάνωση των εκπομπών με καλεσμένους του εξωτερικού και το networking, δηλαδή δικτύωση, η οποία έχεις κάνει, βοηθάει όλο το εγχείρημα να πάμε και ένα βήμα παρακάτω, διότι ναι, πρέπει να ασχολούμαστε, οι ταυτότητες μας, οι ρίζες μας είναι στο εσωτερικό, μας ενδιαφέρει πρώτα και κύρια πρωτίστως η Ελλάδα, όμως παρόλα αυτά υπάρχουμε και ως οντότητα, ως Δύση, σαν σύνολο ως Δύση, που αυτό το σύνολο πρέπει οπωσδήποτε να βρίσκουμε συμμάχους για να μπορέσουμε να κάνουμε την ανατροπή.
Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ για την ευκαιρία, Ραφαήλ, που μου έχετε δώσει. Εγώ οφείλω να πω από την πλευρά μου ότι ο λόγος που αγαπώ το Δύση και την ομάδα και θέλω να συνεισφέρω από το δικό μου μετερίζει με τις μικρές μου δυνάμεις, είναι ότι είναι από τα λίγα μέσα τα οποία δεν είχαν ποτέ κάποια χρηματοδότηση κρατική, δεν ελέγχονται, είναι φιλελεύθερα πραγματικά. Εμείς λέμε τις απόψεις μας, δεν υπάρχει κάποιος από πίσω που να μας κάνει funding, παιδιά. Πιστεύουμε αυτά τα πράγματα και θυσιάζουμε χρόνο από άλλες δραστηριότητες για να είμαστε εδώ μαζί σας και πραγματικά θέλουμε να δούμε μια θετική διαφορά στην Ελλάδα. Η αλήθεια είναι ότι είμαι και εγώ, έχω το κλίμα το βαρύ με την αεροπορία, γιατί για μένα οι άνθρωποι που υπηρετούν τις ένοπλες δυνάμεις, ιδιαίτερα για τις απολαβές με τις οποίες βρίσκονται και υπηρετούν εκεί, είναι πραγματικά ήρωες της κοινωνίας μας. Είναι καθημερινοί μικροί ήρωες, από την εκπαίδευση που κάνουν κάθε μέρα, μέχρι δυστυχώς και τα ατυχήματα. Μακάρι να είχαμε, όταν βλέπω αυτούς τους ήρωες, δεν αισθάνομαι απλά λύπη. Αισθάνομαι σεβασμό, αισθάνομαι ότι ποια είμαι εγώ η δειλή που θα λυπηθεί για έναν ήρωα, ξέρεις.
Σωστά.
Πραγματικά το παιδί πιστεύω ότι έφτασε σε ένα άλλο πνευματικό επίπεδο, γιατί θυσιάστηκε για μας, ούτως ή άλλως έκανε μια εργασία στην οποία είχε αντιμετωπίσει το ενδεχόμενο της θυσίας του. Το ήξερε, όταν πηγαίνεις και κάνεις μια τέτοια εκπαίδευση και κάνεις μια τέτοια εργασία, ξέρεις ότι μπορεί και να πεθάνεις για την πατρίδα. Και αυτό το δίλημμα το έβαλε στη ζωή του για πολύ λίγα χρήματα, του στοίχισε τελικά τη ζωή του και αυτούς τους ήρωες θα τους κοιτάμε πάντα με περηφάνεια.
Λοιπόν, υπό αυτή την έννοια, Μάριος Μιχαήλ Τουρούτσικας, υποσμηναγός της πολεμικής αεροπορίας, έπεσε υπέρ πατρίδος αθάνατος. Καλό σας βράδυ, παιδιά.
Shut up and sit down.
You wanted law and order in this town. You've got it.
People are ready to tell us, this is not possible, that is not possible. I say, whatever the true interest of our country calls for is always possible.
He said at press conference the other day that he wanted the European Parliament to be the democratic body of the community. He wanted the Commission to be the executive, and he wanted the Council of Ministers to be the Senate. No, no, no.
You know, they have a word. It sort of became old-fashioned. It's called a nationalist. And I say, really, we're not supposed to use that word. You know what I am? I'm a nationalist, okay? I'm a nationalist.
You know, when I came here 17 years ago, and I said that I wanted to lead a campaign to get Britain to leave the European Union, you all laughed at me. Well, I have to say, you're not laughing now, are you?
You wanted law and order in this town. You've got it.